Hey everybody, and welcome to the point of the week number 3, where I give you on a weekly basis quick and simple tennis strategies and tips that you can use to become a better tennis player. So in this week's video, what I'm going to do is break down a couple of women's doubles points. Specifically, what we're going to talk about is how to beat a lobber. I'm going to show you a simple, easy to use 3-step formula that I've kind of discovered myself that I use against lobbers to beat them so that they don't frustrate me and so I don't beat myself out there on the court. This came up for me really this past weekend. I was sitting down chatting with a 4-5 lady who was in a tournament, and she said she made it to the semifinals and then lost to a team that they were better than, but they just couldn't figure out how to beat the lob, right? So I wanted to create this to figure out a simple formula to beat the lob. So that's what I'm going to talk about here today. If you haven't watched the point of the week before, what I do on a weekly basis, this is an experiment where I'm breaking down a point and giving you quick, easily kind of digestible takeaways that you can go and implement into your match. So I always start with showing you the point. So here is, I'm actually going to show you 2 points, but here is the first point that I'll show you. Alright, so you can see it's a really good point here. Both teams do some things right, both teams do some things wrong, but what I want to focus on is kind of the lobs themselves. This is just to give you an idea. So this is an 8-5 combo point. It looks like from Northern California, so maybe somewhere in the Bay Area. So a couple things I want to focus on. One is the patience of both teams really on this point. That's kind of step one of the formula against the lob. You really need to be patient. What the lobber wants to do is wants you to go for too much and beat yourself. And we know how frustrating that can be. You want to smash every overhead on every single lob, but you really do have to be patient. And they do a good job here. So I'll show you. Let's see. So you can see on a couple of these, this is a pretty decent lob here. You can see she's on her heels hitting this overhead, and she could really go for it and try to hit the net person, but instead she understands that she's kind of in a more defensive position, so she just keeps it in play, just keeps it going. She knows the other team's not going to beat her with a winner because they just keep lobbing and keep kind of bumping the ball back. So this isn't the opportunity to take over and win the point. So she does a good job of kind of just getting it back and into the court. Same thing here. Maybe she's not super comfortable hitting overheads. Those were definitely a little bit further. She hit both of those from the service line, so that's a little bit harder overhead than obviously if you're on top of the net. So she just kept the point going, which is really great. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is really getting impatient against a lobber. And then breaking down for your teammate, and that's ultimately what they want you to do. So that's step one. Be patient. Step two is to change it up. So you'll see against lobbers, and in fact, I played a mixed doubles match a couple of months ago in a tournament, and we were down 2-1 in the first set. We were about to go down a break, go down 3-1. Because I kept hitting it at the girl, and she just kept hitting really good deep lobs into the back of the court, and I kept beating myself. And what I did at 3-1 or at 2-1 40-15 is I decided to change it up. Those first 3 or 4 games, I was really trying to overpower her and hit my forehand as hard as I could, and she was able to use that pace and the trajectory of the ball to just kind of block everything back and hit really good deep lobs. So what I did is I started slicing and I started hitting high loopy forehands to her, and it made it a lot more difficult for her to time that lob. She couldn't block it back. She had to generate the power herself from there, and she wasn't as effective at that. And what happened is we ended up coming back in that game winning, and we actually won 11 of the next 12 games. We won 6-2, 6-1, and I quit trying to overpower her because I recognized it and changed it up and realized she had trouble timing some of the high loopy ones, some of the slices, and we were able to really take over the match. So you've got to change it up. So that means changing the side you're hitting to. Maybe they're good at hitting forehand lobs versus backhand lobs. Changing the pace of the ball. So maybe they like the pace and they like to block it back, like I was saying with my opponent a few months ago. Change the depth. So maybe they like the deep ones. They like to sit way back behind the baseline and hit lobs from there. And if you can hit a couple of like short chippers, short chip shots, then you can throw them off their game a little bit. And then change the spin if you can. If you have a good topspin forehand, hit a high topspin forehand and make them try to time that. Really change it up, and while you're changing it up, observe the lobs that they hit good and then the lobs that they miss, the ones they leave short. And what we're looking for is a weakness. We're looking for their weak lob. So it may be a slice to their backhand. It may be high topspin to their forehand. It may be power to their forehand. It may be a short ball to their backhand. Who knows? But you really want to look for that weakness. Every lobber has one. And once you find it, just keep changing it up, but attack that weakness. 60, 70% of your shots need to be, let's say they have trouble hitting a lob off the slice. If you slice it to their backhand, 60 to 70% of my shots are going to be slices to their backhand. So that way I know when I hit a good slice to their backhand, they're going to leave the lob short, and I'm able to come in after it. And that's the last step is to come in. So you can see as they play the rest of the point, she got the girl on the run here, and she came into the net, which is really great. That's what you're looking to do. They were really patient throughout the point and finally saw an opportunity to where the lady in the back in the pink, there was no way she was going to be able to hit a good deep lob. And they both ran into the net and attacked, and she does let the ball drop, which I'm not a fan of, but she finishes the point off there and does a really good job. Again, to recap here, step 1 against the lobber, be patient. Don't beat yourself. Step 2, change it up and really look for that weakness. So again, change up the side you're hitting to, forehand, backhand, change up the pace you're hitting with, change up the depth, hit some deep ones, hit some short ones, and change up the spin. And then the last thing is once you find that weakness, attack it and come in after it. They're going to have a weakness. They're going to have one that they struggle to hit a good lob with. Find that weakness and come in after it. Hopefully that helps. That's all for this week. What I want to hear from you is if you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, comment below with what your strategy typically is against a lobber. And if this video made you change your mind about that, comment on what it's going to be going forward. I want to hear your thoughts on how best to beat a team that does lob a lot, because there's a lot of those out there, and we all know how frustrating it can be to play against a team like that. So be sure to comment below, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you can, if you enjoyed this. Again, I'm doing one of these every single week, and let me know what you think.